Hi there, it's Sarah here from BJC Health, coming to you from Sydney, Australia. Thanks for showing an interest in one of our educational events. You're about to watch part one, so enjoy the event. If you've got any questions about the content, then please consider joining BJC Connect, where you can access all of our facilitators live. Otherwise, please consider leaving a comment and we'll do our best to get back to you.
Hi everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening. Like Sarah said, I'm really sorry I didn't cook tonight. I'm in the middle of a huge university semester with exams and assessments every week, more than one of them. So I cooked my own family dinner tonight. You'll be happy to know there was some zucchini and some lentils involved, but I didn't cook for tonight. But please, that means you can shower with me with loads and loads of questions. I know that gut health is something that a lot of people are interested in. I've been asked about this for 25 years. And what the great news is that with every 3 to 4 years of my dietetic experience, the research that's coming out in this area is phenomenal. And it's going to keep pumping out because this is where the interest is. Not just immunity, not just gut health. It's about how is the gut related to arthritis and inflammatory arthritis and brain health and emotional, mental health. How is it related to diabetes and heart disease? And when you read the research now, when they talk about gut health and immunity and improving your gut microbiome and the diversity in your gut, they will now link this with almost every condition out there. So I know we're talking a lot about autoimmune tonight, and I'm going to link it to that, but it is something that is getting better and better in research all the time. There's a lot more attention being put to it. And the reason, or part of the reason is that 70 to 80%, depending on which paper you read, some state 70, some state 80, 70 to 80% of your immunity is in your gut. So now researchers are really establishing this link between your immune system and your gut health, but also chronic disease and gut health. And that's such a key thing. And so looking after your gut as much as possible can really assist with either the prevention of a lot of chronic disease, or what they're now thinking will be prevention, or even helping you manage a condition you already have. And I know over the years, people will say to me, oh, I wish I'd known this earlier, because there may be when I was in my early 40s and I started feeling a little bit of pain, or my mum was talking about her arthritis or how it runs in the family, maybe I would have made some different decisions about what I ate or how I looked after my stress or how I prioritize sleep, because all of this is part of gut health. It's not just what you eat. Maybe I would have prioritized that a little bit more when I was younger, and I wouldn't have some of these issues that I have now. But again, some of the good news is that by looking after your gut health, even if you've been diagnosed with something, you can actually decrease the risk of the degeneration of that condition and maybe slow it down, which is really important for, I'm sure, everybody who's on this call. The other thing is that a lot of us are dealing with more than one thing. So over the years, if a client comes to see me with arthritis, most clients don't come and see me just with arthritis. They may also have elevated sugar level. They might have a little bit of a high cholesterol reading over the last few years, maybe blood pressure. There's usually more than one reason why somebody's coming to see me. And a lot of the things that we'll touch on tonight help with all of these things, not just gut health, for example. So keep that in mind. 70 to 80% of your immune system is located in your gut. So supporting your gut health is one of the biggest keys to your immunity, as well as then the potential of decreasing the risk of autoimmune disease or managing any condition that you already have. We have 100 trillion microorganisms in our gut. They are made up mostly of bacteria, but also viruses, fungi, and other, bits and pieces in the mix, but 100 trillion. So they say that the human body has something like 23,000 genes for your genotyping. Your gut has over 3 million genotyping. So basically, some of the research papers talk about the fact that the gut now should be just seen as its own organ in the body, and such a big ecosystem. And the reason why some of your immunity in your gut, it can be caused by quite a few things. So they haven't obviously got to the bottom of everything. So it can be genetic, that you might have some issues with your gut. It might be environmental. It might be hormonal. It might be due to medications. It could be due to some immune factors, for example. But let's say with an environmental trigger, if you have environmental triggers, and these days there's a lot more of that with pollution, potential water quality, depending on where you live in the world or even in Sydney, an environmental trigger might produce what we call inflammatory cytokines. And when you have inflammatory cytokines in your body, they can activate what we call T helper cells. And there's like T helper 1, T helper 2, T helper 17, and there's kind of 4 or 5 main types of these T helper cells. And if you get this activation that occurs, you might end up with an immune attack on your own body. So basically, if you have an autoimmune condition, you would have heard this from your doctors before, it's basically your body not realizing which of your cells are healthy and which of your cells are foreign or foreign matter that needs to be destroyed, because it might cause changes in your cell type, which might increase your risk of cancer or inflammation. So autoimmune is when you're attacking the good parts of your body as well, not just the bad parts. And this can happen because we get these triggers, whether they're genetic, environmental, hormonal. You could take antibiotics and that can trigger an autoimmune response. There's many reasons why this might happen. But one of the things that we know is that there has been, over the last 20 years, autoimmune disease has tripled in Australia. Globally, but even in Australia, it has tripled. So when we think about the 80 different autoimmune conditions, it affects 5% of our population. Now, rheumatoid arthritis, for example, might impact 1%, but we're talking about autoimmune altogether. So that's things like alopecia, obviously rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, psoriasis, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, so autoimmune of the thyroid. We've got autoimmune of the gut, so you have Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, celiac disease, all autoimmune diseases, multiple sclerosis, lupus. There's a lot of autoimmune conditions out there. And unfortunately, what can happen is once you have one autoimmune condition, it does actually increase your risk of a secondary autoimmune condition. So it's not uncommon for somebody with type 1 diabetes to later on, at some point in their lives, be diagnosed with celiac disease, for example. So what we can try and do, and knowing some of this information, and if you have some of these conditions in your family, then what we try and do is that we try and start younger, and we try and help the younger generations eat better or live better, so that then maybe they can decrease the risk of these chronic diseases. What I think is important, though, is that diet has a huge impact on your gut. So we're going to talk about how to diversify your gut microbiome tonight, because that is what can really help with your immunity. So some of the research says that diet can contribute to over 50%, closer to 60% of the diversity that happens with your gut. Whereas genetics might only dictate, about 12% of what happens with your gut. So lifestyle is quite important to use as something that can really make a significant change to what your health might be like. Now, a lot of people over the years have asked me about, I specialize in irritable bowel syndrome, so I do a lot of elimination diets and FODMAP diets for bloating, loose stools. I help people with ulcerative colitis, celiac disease, going on a gluten-free diet because it's a true allergy, and so if you have celiac, you can't eat gluten. But over the years, I've had a lot of people ask me about leaky gut and permeability to the gut. And I don't know, I'd even say 5-10 years ago, a lot of us would say, well, we don't know if we have enough research to say that leaky gut syndrome is actually a thing. It's like saying when you didn't have celiac disease, and if you didn't have Crohn's disease, and you didn't have ulcerative colitis, doctors would tell you you had irritable bowel, which was a very, very frustrating diagnosis 10 to 15 years ago, and especially 20 years ago or more, because that would be the thing you're told you have when you don't really have anything else. But then the doctors would also say to you, and now I can't help you because it's not really a medical condition. So even though you're complaining about all of these symptoms, see you later. Now, thankfully, we know that there is a lot we can do for people who have irritable bowel. And it is a medical condition. And so leaky gut was one of those things that maybe a lot of GPs or doctors would say, oh, that's what maybe you'll go and see a naturopath for. But now there's a lot more research to suggest that, yes, when we have disimbalance in our gut, we are more likely to get what's, in the easiest possible way to say it, larger holes in the lining of your gut, where proteins and toxins can leach out of your gut into your body and cause inflammation. And this has been a very big interest for a lot of people over the years. How can I fix my gut? How can I tighten the gaps in those holes in my gut so that I'm not leaching toxins out into the rest of my body, which might then be linked with the inflammation that I might be experiencing? So gut health and this idea of the permeability in your gut, the leaking, doesn't just cause the inflammation of the gut. So a lot of people would say, well, then maybe you have irritable bowel, ulcerative colitis, or inflammatory bowel disease. What they're now thinking is that when these things happen in your gut, it can cause a lot of